planning to publish them on a YouTube channel. So please let us know if you don't want to appear on that video. You can just turn off your camera or let us know anyway. So I'm very excited today to introduce our speaker, Lars Sønderby. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. So Lars is from the Department for Climate Change, Climate and Environment at the Municipality of Odense. He's representing our Working Package 5. He holds a bachelor degree in Forest and Landscape Engineering and a master degree in Cultural Environment and Landscape Analysis. Lars has also experience within public administration, including environmental legislation, national and the EU one, natural conservation, project management, including EU and national programs, also nature interpretation. Today, Lars will be talking about the experience from another Horizon Finance project, which is called RECONECT with 1C in Seden Strandby, close to the Odense Fjord. Specifically, Lars, as a project lead, will talk about the local projects to enhance nature-based solutions for hydro-meteorological risk reduction by demonstrating, referencing, upscaling, and exploiting large-scale nature-based solutions in rural and natural areas. So, Lars, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dana. Thank you for the presentation, and you pronounced my name quite well, I would say, so you did well.
I checked in the Google Translator how it is pronounced.
That's good. No, yes, thank you very much for the invitation for the presentation. As Dana said, I've been involved in a project for the last 6 years now. We just finished our project, and I will talk a bit about that, but also I will talk about our sort of hands-on experiences with implementing a nature-based solution at the Fjord of Odense. And but I'll start sharing my screen. So hang on, I'll just see so you can see and put it in presentation. Okay, and you can also see my presentation. First slide now, hopefully.
Yes.
That's great. Okay. No, so as I said, I will talk about a bit of our experience from the Horizon Project RECONECT that was just finished this year in September. We finished it after a lot of work over many years, and it was even extended because of the pandemic. We also survived a pandemic as well, and so it has been it's been a long but also very interesting project. But just to begin it, where it all comes from, it's what I'm going to, that's me. This shows you part of the project area at the Fjord of Odense, which all started our ideas about finding a solution that we could work with that could also deal with several agendas in the same area, which is quite typical, all areas where we have some different obligations. And just behind me there, you see there's a settlement of Seden Strandby, which is not far from Odense, and you can show that. But on the agenda for my presentation is I'm going to talk a bit about the RECONECT project, go into a bit of details where the different challenges we are facing and typical in the same area. So we have to find one or several solutions in the same areas, trying to do that at the same time. Typical for a public body to be able to do that. And I'll tell you about how we have been how we implemented the solution there. Some of the results we already have got from the project, and then I'll also go into a bit of talk about a reflection on nature-based solutions and some of my things and our thoughts I have done over this project. And I can also say, to be honest, that even after 6 years in a project where we are dealing with nature-based solution, I would say we did not come up to a complete agreement on what defines a real nature-based solution. There are several definitions on that, but I have a quite strong meaning about that. So hope you're okay with that. If I go into details about that, then maybe that can open up some kind of discussion. Yes, but to start with the RECONECT project. The RECONECT project is, you can say, it's a demonstration project where we're working with hydrological issues mainly in Europe, but also internationally, because we had partners from the EU, but also have collaborators from outside EU, like Serbia, and also we have partners in Thailand and Taiwan as well. So and Malaysia, of course, and Colombia and Brazil and Peru, and yeah. So we had several partners there, and we've been working together. And what you can say, what was special about this project, that we had the research angle in the project, which is typical for Horizon projects, but we also had sort of implementation. So the core of the project were the demonstration sites. So we were 4 to begin with. We ended up with 3 demonstrators, which were partners that would actually implement things during the project period. So we were actually doing some construction work as part of this project. And then we had the demonstrators were we were in Odense, of course. Then we were in Hamburg at the Elbe River, and in Italy, close to Portofino in Portofino Natural Park. Tudela, close to Barcelona, was also, but they ended up becoming a collaborator instead. And then we had the B demonstrators, which were actually sites that are already implemented before the project time. So they already done some experiences, and we're trying to use their experience in our project, but also as part of the project do a lot of monitoring in those sites as well. And then of course we had the collaborators, which were typical areas where they're also facing issues they had to deal with, and trying to use the experiences through this project to find out some kind of solutions on how to deal with their challenges in their specific areas. And so that's sort of the core of the project. So we were a group of many different partners from national bodies, authorities, universities, private companies as well. And and the lead partner was Delft University in the Netherlands, who were leading this project and working closely together with the Technical University in Hamburg as well. But so that was sort of a bit short about the RECONECT project, which were then, as I said, finished this year. But there's much more information about the project still. You can find it on our website, the reconnect.eu, where you can see some of the results, and you can also see some of our webinars, form of webinars, and you can find much more information on our website. So I will recommend that you also take a look at our website. But coming back to our place in Odense, as we were an A demonstrator. And for those who don't know that yet, so Denmark is sort of built up with we have the mainland, the peninsula of Jutland, which are the only part of Denmark that is directly connected to the main Europe, you can say. But then we have the 2 main islands, Funen and Zealand, where our capital Copenhagen is. And Odense is then placed sort of more or less in the middle of Funen, our second largest island, where we work. And yes, you see, which is also for Denmark, we have a very long coastline. Actually, it's about 7,000 kilometers of coastline alone in Denmark, which is and we are a very small country, but to compare with, we have almost the same length of coastline as Italy, and even larger than Chile, which is a very long country. So we have a lot of water, and you always say in Denmark that there's nowhere in Denmark you will be maximum 1 hour from the sea. So we always very close to the sea, and we always very affected by the sea somehow, or at least from the streams that are also affected by the sea. So that's something that's have a huge influence on Denmark. And if we get a bit closer to Odense, you see here on the island of Funen, we have our project area, which is located approximately 7 kilometers from the city center of Odense, in the fjord of Odense. And this area, you see the fjord of Odense here, is also designated as one of, how many we have now, 14 or 16 risk areas in Denmark, which are at a certain risk of flooding already. So in those areas, the municipalities in those areas are obligated to take certain measures to deal with that risk. But the thing in Denmark is also that the obligation to protect yourself from flooding is actually placed on the landowner yourself. You are alone yourself, obligated to protect yourself from flooding. So you can say, so the municipalities, the state are only obligated to protect their sort of important infrastructure sites, public areas, but the responsibility to protect your own house and your own garden from flooding is actually placed on the landowner itself. Then the thing is, and that is of course, that can be a challenge if you live in a country with a long coastline, but the legislation is then built up so that you are supposed to do it yourself, but it doesn't mean that we allow everything to be done. So all, for instance, coastal protection that you would like to be built has to be approved. So it fits into landscape. So it's not a threat against the nature, and so you are still, you cannot build. It's not a complete anarchy. So every house owner can build their own wall or build their own dike. It has to be approved by the municipality or the state, depending on the size of the project. And normally they will also be, you have to do it sort of together with your neighbors. So, and we're still facing that because a lot of landowners still don't really understand why they are supposed to do it themselves, because it is a big thing, of course. And I would also guess that in the coming years, the legislation will probably be changed, because with the facing climate changes we already experiencing now, it is a huge responsibility to put on each landowner. So something will change in the coming years. That's what I expect. So we'll see. But so you can see typical challenge that we are dealing with in the same area. We have the flood risk, as I've mentioned. In that area of Seden Strandby, they are facing major flood risks. And I would say, and for Odense, we are in the bus. It's in the south end of the fjord of Odense, and we also have several streams, small rivers running out. So we are in an area which are very affected by flooding, and especially this settlement of Seden Strandby are at quite a danger. So especially every winter, they have several risks every winter, and in the last 5-6 years they've had. Well, in the last 5-6 years, they already had what we call floods, which are at a 20-year return period. So they had 3 of them in the last 6 years. And so that's quite a huge thing there. But you also have the fjord itself and the area itself. We are facing a biodiversity crisis, which is, you see, it's a global thing. And we also see it locally. Mainly in the area of the fjord of Odense, we have seen major changes in that area in the last 200 years. well, about 1/3 of the fjord itself has been drained and now used for land, what you call agriculture. But also around the fjord, we used to have huge areas of salt marshes and meadows, and approximately about 90% of them are now drained and used for mainly agricultural purposes. But those areas is naturally also being flooded, and it will be more frequently. So you can see, so the biodiversity crisis here locally and typically globally, one of the things which is the main problem is the loss of habitats. And we have seen that a lot around the fjord of Odense. Many habitats has been lost, and that has also had a major influence on the species, birds and amphibians, for instance. And then another big thing in the fjord of Odense and most of all fjords in Denmark is we have huge challenges with the poor water quality because of mainly from nutrients from you say 70% of the nutrient comes from agricultural areas. I would say that and one of the reasons that is also that Denmark is one of the we are one of the most what you call agricultural biggest percentage of agricultural areas in the world, together with Bangladesh. So about 2/3 of the country is used for agricultural sites. So and many of those areas are close to streams, close to the fjords. So we have in the last few years we have seen huge problems with very poor water quality because of huge amount of nutrition running out in the fjords. So all these three challenges are something we are trying to deal with. So to begin with, I can see the increased flood risk because of the climate change. The settlement of Seden Strandby has already experienced several floods there, and it's something they worry about every winter. So for instance, we had in 2013, we had our storm surge at 1.72 meters above mean sea level, and which was at that time a 100-year return period. But if you look here, you can see this shows the how we expect it will change over the years. So as you can see here, for instance, in 50 years at least, this will something you will experience between every fifth year, and that already did flood the area at that time. So that's a big challenge when we have a flood at that time. But we also have had a flood in 2006 here. It's a picture from that time at 1.9 meters, and in the next 50 years there will something that will happen every 10th year. So that's of course a huge thing, and that's also something they're trying to find a solution out there. The same time, as I said, the poor water quality, you can see the map here showing areas in Denmark from this year where you see the red areas. You can say there are no oxygen. It was completely dead, those areas. And the other areas were also still very affected. So actually, in all our water bodies in Denmark, of the 105 water body areas where we cover, we only have 4 of them which are in a good ecological state. The rest of them are at a bad state. So that's something we have to deal with. We have to find a solution. We have to change that. And that's not only because we would like to, but also because we are obligated to do that. Also because of the Water Framework Directive in the European Union. And of course, we have the biodiversity crisis, and represented by the Northern Lapwing, which were in the last red list from the IUCN, is now listed as vulnerable, which used to be a very common species in Denmark, but it has really declined over the last years. And one of the reasons for that is loss of habitats, typical. And that's actually the main issue for a lot of species in Denmark, is loss of habitats. We are lost so many areas. And as you can see in this graph here, Denmark, we don't really have a very good placement in the European Union. You see, we're just about Belgium, but unless that, we are not very flattered about this position in Denmark. But it's also one of the reasons for that is because of the high percentage of agricultural areas. We have that, so we are trying to change that. We're not only trying, we're also supposed to do that, and all countries in the European Union are supposed to do something, which we also pointed out in the last the nature restoration law that was went through in the European Parliament this year. So that's something we also all of us in the European Union are going to work with, and I guess also for all countries who are not a part of the European yet, they also have to implement that somehow. So 3 main challenges where we are dealing with, and quite often we see them in the same area. Here you see a picture of the project area at Seden Strandby, and so they show you the settlement that are being flooded and they are being flooded from both from the north, west, and east. And so what we had a look on at that and through our project was the east side. And why did we have a look at the east side? Well, because here we also had some space to work with. So we had space to work with a nature-based solution, because you can say nature-based solution in general, they need space. It's difficult to have a real nature-based solution in a garden unless you want to tear down the house. And quite often the landowners don't really approve that. So, but here you had more areas which were farmed areas, and it shows you from 2002, showing you the areas that were being farmed. So we had a project idea. How can we in that area improve flood protection at the same time as we're doing some nature restoration? So sort of combine that, and those two together combined should be the core of a nature-based solution. So that was our idea. So in 2014, we had a preliminary project made where we asked Rambo, who was also a partner in the RECONECT project, how they could, if it would make sense, would it be possible to combine these things here? And luckily they said yes, that would be a good idea to do that. So we worked with that for several years, as we had the first idea in 2014, and then I must say that the RECONECT project started in 2018. So it was sort of a long time span we were working with, trying, because we had landowners owning that area and trying to convince them, had a lot of negotiations with the landowners there, if they could see themselves as a part of that solution. And for those landowners, it would mean that they would have to change the use of the area. So there was, and how would they change use? That's also a matter of financing. So you can say we used the 4 years to find solutions to implement this, to find this project idea, both to convince them that it would be a good idea, and at the same time to finance it, because we at that time did not have the resources in the municipality itself to finance it on 100%. So we tried several ways, several EU programs, like the LIFE program too, the LIFE Nature, LIFE Climate, and we ended up within the Horizon project where it finally succeeded. And then we also lucky that we also were able to find some funds from a state program, and there were that time which were focused on projects with several synergies where you could combine interests, and that was, of course, the thing with us. So after 4 years, we were able to start this new project, and we had the detailed final project made that showed us that we could make a project which in the core meant that we had a dike close to the coast. That was the original dike. So you can say the natural thing would be just to build that dike higher. But from our point of view, that would not be a nature-based solution, because we want to make improvement for the biodiversity. So instead of building this dike, we actually removed the dike and moved it further inland, about 700 meters further inland. to give space for the sea. And at the same time, as we moved it further inland, we would also improve flood protection. So we moved it into well, the area is, of course, the further away you get away from the sea, the higher you are from the mean sea level. So we moved it further away, but also built the dike in those areas also a bit higher than the original dike. So we ended up having a better flood protection, and us also by moving it away from the sea and also buying out the area for farming purposes, we also made space for new habitats, and finally also made a larger buffer zone. It's a buffer zone from the area. So we had a larger area that could be flooded with water and where nutrition could also be placed on before, so not running directly out to the sea. So that was sort of the main ideas, and we ended up with. And then we finally were able to start the project, the implementation in 2020 in the middle of the pandemic. But here I can show you some of the how we constructed the dike itself. And the nature-based solution, as I said here, is not only the dike, it's also what we've done beside the dike. But the dike alone is that it's moved further away from the coastline, further inland. But then we built the dike up with that, making more or less a typical traditional dike, but we made it also with long slopes, so it's able to be grazed with cattle and horses. We also try to build in micro habitats in the dike itself where that's possible, areas with rocks. So trying to also have a sort of a multifunctional dike at the same area where that was possible. So to have a dike built in rocks and making more microhabitats. So in 2020, as I said, in August, we started excavating in the area. We starting building dike further away. You can see here we have taken off the top layer of soil, so which we have to remove, and then putting in clay, because the dike is built up with a core of clay, and above that core of clay we have put normal soil, which were the could be grazed. So you can see the core of the dike is the clay dike, and the soil is sort of to protect the dike from the animals using it, and also where the grass could grow on. And we removed the old dike that was close to the coastline. You see a picture of that here, where we are starting to remove the dike. We built in new habitats. That's one of the ponds we have been working with. And at the same time, as part of this project, we also introduced species to the area again, lost species, which were here, the natterjack toad, a typical species for this habitat that were lost about. It disappeared from the area for about 50 years ago because of the loss of habitats. So as a building in new habitats, we were also able to introduce that species again to the area, and hopefully it will then also be able to breed in the area again. So, but we needed 3 years. We had to wait before we'll see any results of that. But that also included involving landowners, that some sort of making a local pride of that, to be able to be proud of what their area could do to introduce these species to the area again. And we also restored the streams in the area, which were moved about 40 years ago. They were moved into other places, but we have put them into a more natural course again. You see the here and here, as we were building this as part of the nature-based solution. And here you see where we are building in some of the microhabitats in the dike areas where we put in the rocks are placed over there. So we've done that. You can see them being built in. Looks a bit artificial, but that's as long as it works. Some areas we put wood on the area just left it there. It's quite low key, and put it there to also to have new extra habitats. And above on the dike itself, as I showed you, you put on the soil, and a year after, then the grass was sowed there on the dike, and this is how it looked 1 or 2 years later. We can see we are putting also a lot of flowers in parts of the dike, so see if that could work with insects. They also have it, so the dike itself could also be a sort of an habitat for insects in the area, and it seems to work. So the results that we ended up with after all these years of working with it, that we ended up with a better protection, flood protection, which of course was one of the main goals of this project, up to 2.40 m. But we also had monitoring done before the implementation of the solution, and then 4 or 5 years after. And fortunately, it shows that there is a positive development of habitats. They have increased up to 50%. We see that the birds, and that's mainly the waders, are using a larger part of the area for breeding, and also that lost species, as I said, the natterjack toad has actually returned, because this year, for the first time in 50 years, we can hear the natterjack toad in the area again. So that was, of course, a very happy project manager who experienced that in the spring this year. So that was really a big thing, and that's something we are going to deal with in the coming years, and we are trying to upscale that to a larger area as well in this area. But also to showing some of the results to illustrate that with what we mean with the water indicators here. So what you see here is that before implementation, and I show you that's at a water level at 80 centimeters above mean sea level. And that extra situation you will experience several times during the year, also in the summertime. And what you can see here, before implementation, you can see the original dike here, and that actually worked. It prevented flooding at those small water levels, and so it worked that way. But it would not allow water to run in to this area, and that's also the reason why it was built. It was built originally to give more areas able to use them for agriculture. By removing this dike and putting it up further here, we actually has resulted in a more dynamic flooding regime, which actually was also one of the purposes of the area. You can see that. So we have built a new dike further in, and one of the results is that as water is coming closer to the settlement. But that was the purpose of the area. So you have a more dynamic, more natural flooding regime now, which will also promote development of new habitats in the area. As you can see, so you see water running in and out quite frequently, and which is typical for those areas. But at the same time, you see that one of the big event, like the one at 1 meter at 90 centimeters, we had 2006. You see the whole area was flooded. But now with our new solution, you can see the area is protected better than it used to be. So we have a situation where major floods, the area is protected, well, areas behind the dike protected, but from smaller floods, a larger area will be flooded. So we it's about a give and take. We give more for nature, and then of course we restore some of the areas, but not further than here. And from a nature point of view, we of course would have liked to that a much larger area could be flooded. But you can see why didn't we do that? Well, that was also a matter of finances, and also be able to pay out the landowners, because to be able to accept this flooding here, the landowners, they have been compensated. So we have not bought land from them, but we have bought some of their farming rights. So it means that after they have accepted a new dike, which will here, for instance, protect the houses better than they used to be, but they will have to accept that the areas out here will then permanently be nature. So we have bought the farming rights so they can use the area for grazing and cutting hay, and then nothing more. So they were not able, then they cannot use nutrition, pesticides, they cannot plow it anymore. So it will only be left for nature. So that's sort of one of the deals we made with the landowners here in this area. So so this shows us up to. So this is our idea of a nature-based solution, and so then of course what I have made some reflection on, and we also been discussing a lot in the RECONECT project, is what makes a solution nature-based. This is taken from the IUCN definition of a nature-based solution, and I've sort of taken it up. So what defines a nature-based solution is that it should protect ecosystems, it should sustainably manage ecosystems, it should restore natural or modified ecosystems, and that of course addresses societal challenges effectively and also provide human well-being and biodiversity benefits. So in the core, yes, it should have benefits for the people and the society, but a nature-based solution should also have benefits for biodiversity and should also have an amount of either protection of an ecosystem or restoration of an ecosystem. And if it does not have that, then the question is then a nature-based solution? Because to be honest, I've seen several examples of a nature-based solution, and sometimes you ask yourself, where are the nature in this area protection? Because a solution could of course work with natural processes as a sort of restoring water, keeping water. But does that make it nature-based? Because then you will have to ask yourself, where are the benefits for biodiversity in this? Where are we restoring anything or protecting something, ecosystems? So a nature-based should not only be a solution where you find a solution and then you put a bit of a green polish on it, and then it's nature-based. Because if you look directly on the definition of a nature-based solution, it's quite clear what it should provide, this solution. So that's something, and I must say that we have tried to do that in our project. And you say, so we did it from our point of view, we did it in the way that you said, as we planned the project, the protection of people against flooding and improvement for biodiversity in nature were two equal parameters that we worked with from the start. So we had also had a clear look on what are the possibilities in areas. So we were very clear, you should not go sort of, and then, and then biodiversity will then suffer. Because for instance, as we had the preliminary project, there was also suggestion that we should build the dike closer to the sea. But we went after the solution that had the highest ambitions in that area, and also of course made it more expensive. But that was our point of view, to be honest, to say that this is a nature-based solution. And so that was a part of our. You can also say that here is a situation that that shows you a typical situation at the coast, because it's not only what makes a solution nature-based. It's not only the solution, but it's just as much the approach to the solution that you have here. Here is a typical example. You see here an area with the farmed area, and you have the original meadows, and you experience more frequent flooding. You would like to protect your area, then you build a dike, and what will happen? Yeah, you'd see the meadows here also with the rising sea level. You see the meadows will be flooded more frequently, which will have, you can say, is that not natural? Yes, it is, but it also does not give space for these habitats to adjust to these changes, because naturally those habitats will then need space to grow further inland. But with the dike, you sort of stop this and you say not any further. And of course you can say, well, we build the dike in a certain way and we give it more space and we put in micro habitats. But is it then a real proper solution? So of course the real solution here should be, of course, to move the dike up to here, at least. so you can say that's the approach. But of course, so that also means that when we are planning these solutions, we need to look at several interests in the area. And that is also something I've seen and also experienced on myself, that it means that you have several, quite often you have several people, different group planning, trying to deal with challenges, but you need to put these people together and find the solutions together, because if they don't do that, then you will end up with a silo solution. Then, okay, here and there we'll deal with this problem, but what about the other problems? So to reduce silo thinking, that's really a very important thing. So, and also another thing you have to be clear about is that you can say a lot of these challenges are also very much closely related to national applications, which are then back also related to EU directives. So you see, for instance, here we have the flood directive, which all EU member states have to implement. We have the habitat and bird directive, which all countries have to implement, and the same with the water framework directive. And most all of those areas where they have interest are in the same area. So, and those are of course all part of the national application, which should be implemented at local level, which are typical for in Denmark in the municipalities. So you can say, so working with a nature-based solution is also very much related to national legislation. So that's also something you should have a clear look on. So to my final remarks, message is that what we have learned and what we also in a future perspective is that nature-based solution, as I said here, is a multidisciplinary approach. It's necessary. We don't have the space for dealing with each problem equally. We have to do it together. And but this multifunctionality should be planned from the start, or else it will not work. And also have a look at the political agendas. That will probably help you. And if you address them correctly, then that is also a way to combine these interests in the area. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this inspiring presentation and for providing insights on the RECONECT project, and also for the critical reflections on the definitions of nature-based solutions. So since there are not so much time for the question, I just open the floor straight away to the audience. If you have any comments, reflections, questions, just unmute yourself, or you can also use the chat to write your question so I can read it out of loud for you. Fulvio.
Thank you, Dana. And thanks for the nice presentation, and also congratulations for this ambitious project, because it shows how it is possible to combine restoration with adaptation. I was interested in knowing more about the governance and participatory approach that characterize this initiative, because you say that at the start of your presentation, community of users were used for knowledge exchange and collaboration. But I'm interested in getting to know more about the governance and participatory approach. Also because you mentioned that there was a significant loss of productive land, and landowners and farmers needed to accept this solution, which is innovative, but at the same time, you may find resistances. So which kind of governance and participatory approach was used?
You could say, thank you very much for the question. Well, to begin with, we had a close cooperation with our local NGOs, especially with the Bird Society, and also you can call our nature protection NGO and they have several interests. And then of course, but so they had the idea from the biodiversity point of view, and then also we have been in the project. I can not say we have been working closely with the people in the settlement, because they were not so important for the finding the right solution. The most important people were, of course, the landowners directly. So we have used a lot of time talking with landowners, and so they could see how could they see themselves in this solution, and how would that affect them. So you can say our co-creation process in this, it has not been sort of from a very very broad. It has been more person to person, and because we were dependent on the landowners, of course. But then on the other hand, if we are talking about also upscaling this, then we are using we are involving our politicians, which are also, you can see, they are also the citizens of the city, and they are representing the city. So they have been very much involved in the idea of how to upscale these solutions, and this covers the city planning of the whole area, and also the how to deal with solutions that combine carbon capture, biodiversity loss, and also climate adaptation. So
Thank you. Ariana.
Ariana, we cannot hear you.
She will probably type the question, right? So Gloria, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to first of all to thank you also for the critical perspective, because like I think we have really to reflect on what exactly nature-based solution means, because sometimes we like it many things can appear now, and then you put, as you say, a green cover, and it's close to greenwashing, I believe. And I think we should have these kind of conversations, and we shouldn't be afraid of it, because I mean, also we are receiving public money, and we owe it also to our community. So thank you. First of all, thank you for this. I really appreciate it. And I have a more general question about the RECONECT projects, because you have different case demonstrators in different parts of Europe, quite different from each other. What were the challenges in having I don't know, a shared knowledge, and did you manage to have exchange among the demonstrators? And in that case, what were the challenges? And if you have any recommendation on how to bring a network that actually effectively have it as an exchange and a collective learning?
Well, we had a lot of workshops doing in the regional project, and of course we were collided with the pandemic, which was quite critical for us. But what I could see in the project where it worked the best is actually when we had the possibility to meet face to face, to be honest, because we as all of us, we learned a lot during the pandemic and how to use web meetings. But we could also see it in the productivity in our project. As soon as everything was web-based, the productivity just went down. It's not the same. You cannot interact in the same way. So the last 2 years, sort of before the end of the project, we used quite a lot of time on site visits, which has been very, I would say they can be very effective, and also trying to help each other and trying to develop ideas also to use on regional, national level. For instance, I went to a workshop in Belgrade this year, where at the same time they were in Serbia making a national flood risk management plan. And through this workshop, they actually ended up thinking about how they could write in nature-based solution in their flood risk management plan. So that was a direct result of that. So I would say site visits, workshops are very effective. Of course, they have to be planned properly, but it is, I would say, it is very important if you want to have because it's all also based on relations, you can say. So I hope for you that you also have planned some of that in your project. So I don't know, does that answer your question or?
Thank you, Lars. There is Alexis who's sharing his perspective from the Lower Austrian colleagues. So his takeaway is that nature-based solution needs space, which leads him to the very topic of land use. Conflicts are intrinsic when it comes to the point of how to use space from the very local, for example, land ownership, to the bird eye perspective, so the municipal, regional, and national levels. Thank you, Alexis, for sharing. Just since we have a couple of minutes, I would like to share the next events of the Arcadia. Well, we have for the 16th of January another webinar planned from the working package 2 from Alice, who will be this webinar will be focused on addressing SCANA's challenges in Arcadia. And also, I would like to remind regarding the deadline for the task 8.23, there is a questionnaire that we ask fellow regions and model regions to fill. So, and as the last point, I would like to thank again Lars and also Mette for coordinating, for providing all the materials on time, and would like to thank everyone for the participation. And if I would not see you before the end of the year, have a nice winter vacation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a great day.